Hello, everybody. It's Real Honesty with John Ritland. I'm John Ritland, and this is the flip side of my top 10 best TNA Tag Team Champions. This is the worst. And admittedly, I had to look through a lot of these. I remembered some of them, and some I remembered as teams. Some I didn't remember were even Tag Team Champions. I had to look back on YouTube when I was at home the past couple days and take a look at what was available. And, see, like, oh, yeah, no, these guys weren't as bad as what I saw or what I remember, or no, these guys were horrible. So this is going to be top 10. So, Angle and Sting. This was really just to advance an Angle when Angle was, like, pardon the pun, but Angle had the tag team champion. He was the tag team champion. He was the X Division champion. He was the world champion after being Samoa Joe in a winners take all match at, I believe it was Hard Justice 07. It was the August pay-per-view. I don't remember. I think that's what it was. If I screwed that up, I apologize. It was Hard Justice, or no, it wasn't Sacrifice. Sacrifice was in May. But anyway, Angle kind of just made Sting his partner, and they just had the titles, and then they lost him, and they lost him to a team that's on this list. It was horrible. It was not any good. Angle and Sting just being the champions. It devalued the title because it was just to push it to a team that wasn't much better. So they land on this list for that reason, even though they're two tremendous talents. Number 9, Hernandez and Matt Morgan. Hernandez, as part of LAX, was great. Matt Morgan was a very talented big man. Still is. He doesn't, I believe, wrestle much anymore, if at all. But he's a very talented and athletic 7-foot man. The problem is Hernandez and Matt Morgan, while a good team, were not good tag team champions because it just led to a feud that wasn't that good between them. And their tag team title reigns didn't mean anything. I didn't care about it at all. It didn't advance the tag division, and it didn't make the titles look any good, so I didn't really care for it. So there we go. And now we go to Mexican America, not to be confused with the Mex America theme that Alberto Del Rio and Zeb Coulter tried doing just last year, which was a ripoff of this whole thing with Anarquia and Hernandez, I believe, and they had, I want to say it was Rosita and Sarita with them. I believe Rosita was, but it was the two female talents that they had. It was not a good team at all. No one really cared about it. And it wasn't that anybody didn't care about Hernandez. Anarquia, and I don't know how the guy was outside of TNA. I didn't care about his character and was given no reason to care about his character. So that's why they're on the list here, because the team was just so unmemorable, and their reign as tag team champions obviously was. I had to look it up, and I had to look up a match. I'm like, yeah, this team just wasn't any good, and their tag team run didn't work. Now, number 7, Crimson and Matt Morgan. God, what is it with Matt Morgan being put in teams that no one cared about? And as talented as the guy was, they gave him a lot of crap. He should have been a TNA World Champion at least once. But Crimson was somebody that got pushed way too soon, was talented enough, had a good look, but was pushed way too soon, way before he was ready. It did not work, and him and Matt Morgan as tag team champions was pretty much like Hernandez and Matt Morgan, only somehow worse. It just wasn't any good. So that's why it's number 7. Number 6, Kaz and Super Eric. And I like Kazarian. Super Eric was obviously Eric Young. I like Eric Young. The reason this one lands on the list is obviously you had Eric Young is cowardly, but he donned the Super Eric, yes, the goofy Superman costume thing that he had, or Superman ripoff costume, superhero costume, and he suddenly became a hero. Well, him and Kaz won the tag titles, and then it was vacated that same night. That didn't do anything for the tag titles, and the team wasn't that good anyway, but them as tag team champions, they land on this list strictly because you couldn't even give them a week-long run before taking the titles off of them. Granted, they still probably would have been on this list anyway for having such a short run, but not even one day the titles were taken off the same day. That was bad. That was just not a good way to use the tag team championships. And number 5, 3 Live Crew. Conan, R-Truth, Ron Killings, and Conan, and variations of them were tag team champions. This is basically like the New Age Outlaws, only older, worse, and with more hip-hop, and it was not any good. Conan's a good wrestler. Truth is actually a pretty good athlete and a good wrestler. Road Dogg is not a good wrestler. He was Brian James here because he couldn't use the Road Dogg name because it was copyrighted by WWE. But I never cared for the 3 Live Crew thing. It was not any good, and them as tag team champions did nothing for me. I was pretty much flat on them being any kind of team, so it was pretty bad. So yeah, they're on the list here at number 5. So number 4, the band. This was X-Pac, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash wrestling in TNA in 2010. Already in 2000, neither guy really should have been taking that many bumps. Nash was injured a lot, tore his quad probably while I was talking about this. Scott Hall, unfortunately, had his demons that have recently bubbled up, and I hope that he gets those cleared up. And X-Pac had a lot of health issues also. It just really, it was in the, what it was a lot of Dixie letting Hogan bring people in that did not pop a rate. Now, Kevin Nash was part of TNA already, off and on. X-Pac had been part of TNA a little bit, and Scott Hall had had a few times in TNA that didn't really work because he has demons. But the band was just bad, and they put in Eric Young in there, and that didn't really work. And them as tag team champions was not any good. It was trying to recreate the NWO without using the NWO name, and it just devalued the tag titles more. And number 3, Chavo and Hernandez. Yeah, poor Hernandez. Hernandez and Matt Morgan were not, I was not kind to them on this list. And that's not knocking them as athletes or as wrestlers, but the teams didn't really mean anything. Chavo Guerrero was a mid-card guy at best. As talented as he was, mid-card guy because, sorry, your uncle's better than you, Chavo. Eddie Guerrero, there's no doubt Eddie Guerrero is way better than Chavo. But Chavo was a really good hand, but he was, at best, a cruiserweight wrestler, a singles wrestler, and he was a good tag team wrestler. Him and Hernandez should have worked a lot better. It just didn't. And maybe it was age, maybe it was the fact that Chavo had just come off of his WWE run, after being fired, and it didn't work. It just didn't work at all. And their tag title win was out of nowhere. It didn't really pop a rating. It didn't pop a buy rate. It did not really lead to any great matches, and it was pretty boring, so it gets on the list because of that. And number 2, and this one's going to be controversial, the Hardys. The Hardys in WWE were fine as tag team champions. The Hardys as tag team champions in TNA was not fine because neither guy could really move. Now, they went out and did some big spots and ladder matches, table matches, and that kind of stuff. And this was pre-broken Brother Nero and broken Matt Hardy. But, God, the Hardys just, they couldn't move. They did put over teams proper and had some decent matches, but I didn't care about them as tag team champions, in the middle part of this decade. I mean, it was trying to go back to the past when neither guy really could move anymore. And that's why they're on the list, because none of their reigns are memorable to me. They had good matches at times, and then at other times where I'm like, this is just sad to watch. They're on the list here at number 2 because of that. Now, number 1 was obvious. And anybody that knows me, that knows I've been I was a long-time TNA viewer, is not going to be surprised by who I select here. It is Ron Killings, R-Truth now, and Adam Pac-Man Jones. At the time, he was a suspended football player for a nightclub shooting, but the team that he was on, it was the Titans. I think it was the Tennessee Titans. They would not allow him to they would allow him to appear in TNA wrestling, but he had a no contact clause, so he couldn't take bumps. Like, he could, tease stuff and, pretend he could take bumps, but he couldn't. So otherwise, TNA would get sued. So they worked around it. It wouldn't have mattered even if he was able to take bumps because the team was a horrible idea. Pac-Man was such a vilified figure, and they even made fun of the nightclub shooting, I believe at Bound for Glory 2007, when Pac-Man had a bunch of money and then he got hit, and then the money got thrown up, and it was like a Making It Rain thing, which is a reference to the nightclub shooting. It was really horrible. It was in bad taste. And Ron Killings, there's no wonder he left TNA soon after that. Because, my God, the best they did with him in his last run was give him a run with Adam Pac-Man Jones. And then you had to bring Consequences Creed, who's Xavier Woods, into it because Pac-Man couldn't wrestle. Hence why Pac-Man, just did the Make It Rain thing at Bound for Glory. So, yeah, Team Pac-Man, Ron Killings, and Adam Pac-Man Jones gets on the list at number 1 because they were a horrible team. It was a horrible idea, and TNA looked really dumb for doing it. So that's my list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Twitter link is in the description. This is Real Honesty with John Ritland. I'm John Ritland, and I will see you soon.